And a happy good morning to you. This is our second to last Monday of May and the school year. So a happy, only one more Monday to get through after this, guys. So I'm on page 362. Please turn there in your math journals. Also get out a calculator. You'll be using a calculator, and grab a blank sheet of paper. You can rip one out of your notebook, or you can grab one in the bin. So maybe go ahead and pause the video and go grab that stuff right now. Like, really. Pause the video. Okay, so after the little pause, hopefully you've got your materials. Now here is the joke. What does a vegan zombie desire to eat? So what does a vegan zombie want to eat? Do you know what a vegan is? A vegan is someone who only eats vegetables or fruits, non-animal products. They won't even eat milk or cheese because it involves an animal, I think, because I think that's the difference between a vegetarian. A vegetarian will still eat eggs and cheese and products of animals, but I think vegans do not eat products of animals. So anyways, what does a vegan zombie eat? Well, they eat grains. You get it? Grains instead of brains? Alright. So after this long introduction, here is our topic. We're talking about squares and square roots and the Pythagorean Theorem. So first thing is talking about squares and square roots. This should be kind of a review. Right here you'll see in your math journal, the square of a number is equal to the number multiplied by itself. So for example, 5 squared equals 25, or 5 times 5, excuse me. Now the square root is the opposite. You're trying to break down what number is the square to equal that number. So what number times itself is going to equal that number. So example, we would do the square root of 25, and we're trying to find out what number do we square to equal 25. So that would obviously be 5. The answer to this problem would be 5. So here it says write the positive square root, because a negative could be possible too. It could be negative, because we could say negative 5 times negative 5. And remember, a negative times a negative also equals a positive. But we're not really going to deal with that so much when we're talking about the Pythagorean theorem. But good to know. So it says write the positive square root of each number. So 81, what times itself will equal 81? Well, hopefully you got your multiplication tables down pretty well, and I know you guys do. That would be 9. 9 times 9. Okay, I believe that you guys can figure the rest of this out. You've got instructions right here to solve, and if you have any questions about using the square root function on your calculators, please ask a friend or ask me for help. So now we're going to move on to the Pythagorean theorem. So this is where your piece of paper is going to be handy and what you need. So the first thing about the Pythagorean theorem, is it is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And what we're talking about is in relation to a triangle. Now this triangle has to have a right angle. That is a must. It only works with triangles with a right angle. And the way that we label our triangle is that A and B must be legs. So a leg is the two sides that form that right angle. That is what we call a leg. And then C is the hypotenuse. And that is the side that completes our right angle. So typically, always, the hypotenuse is longer. I think that's mathematically correct, but for what we're studying right now, just assume that the hypotenuse is longer. So we have our legs, which are A and B. A and B always represent the legs, and then the hypotenuse equals c squared. So what we're trying to show is that when we square both legs, when we have a triangle with a 90-degree angle, that will definitely always equal our hypotenuse squared. So, for example, if our leg, I'm trying to think of, I think this number works. Let's say our legs were 3 inches and 4 inches. Okay, so plugging this in, we have 3 squared plus 4 squared, and we're trying to find c squared. What is the hypotenuse going to equal if our legs equals 3 squared plus 4 squared? So 3 squared equals 9, and 4 squared equals 16. 9 plus 16 equals 6 squared, so we're dealing with 25 equals c squared. So now, with our algebra, remember how we always want to do the opposite. We're trying to solve for c, and we have to do the opposite operation to cancel out whatever's attached to c. So remember, like if we had 2c, we would divide by 2. Now here we have c squared, and so the opposite of squaring is the square root. So we would do the square root over the squared, and whatever we do to one side, we have to do the other. So then we have the square root of 25. So the square root of 25 equals 5, and since the square root cancels out our square, c equals 5, and our answer would be 5 inches. Remember, watch out for those units. Okay, so that's what you're solving. So with the piece of paper, what it's asking you, the directions are right here. What it's telling you is to just draw any lines from one edge to the other, and you're going to make a bunch of different triangles, and you're going to find the lengths of the hypotenuse without measuring. So do not measure the hypotenuse. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, it does say measure the hypotenuse. I didn't read the directions. Shame on me. Okay, so measure the lengths of the legs and the hypotenuse of each right triangle to the nearest millimeter. So you're using millimeters. Make sure you have that. So you're going to need a ruler out as well. Okay, and you're measuring, and you're going to see if the a squared plus b squared does really equal c squared. So you're just checking to see if that's proof, if evidence, is that a true statement. Okay, and on this next page, just showing you an example of what to do. Pointing out to number 1 is you're trying to find what an angle of a side would be using the Pythagorean theorem. So sometimes like for number 1, you're trying to find the hypotenuse. So pretty simple. The equation that you would set up is c squared equals 5 squared plus 12 squared. You could set it up the other way. I typically would do 5 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. Either way works. It doesn't matter to me. And you're trying to find what would c squared equal, and then what would c equal. However, looking at number 3, right here, we're trying to find the length of one of the legs. So for example, this problem is going to look a little bit different. I'm going to use the a squared plus b squared method. So if we're trying to find b, a squared would be 7. So I'm going to have 7 squared plus b squared equals 25 squared. So now we're solving for b squared. Not a whole lot of difference, just the way that you do the algebra is a little bit different. So here it's a little bit more simple of solving for c squared, but number 3, you're going to have to do a little bit more work to find what b will equal. What is the length of side b? Okay, going to keep this under 10 minutes. If you have any questions, please ask a partner, reread the directions, or ask for my help. And as always, I will see you in real life.